So let's get a quick recap of the science of false calendars. Now, when I talk about science, I just want to make sure you understand that science doesn't override Jah's words. It may help to explain certain things that we can see that way, but Jah's words are way above, science, and so-called science at that. 1 Timothy chapter 6, it reads, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust. Avoid profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called, which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Grace be with thee. So we can see in verse 20 it says oppositions of science, but it's falsely so called because it's not real science. It is carnal science, but it's not a spiritual understanding science, and science just means knowledge that is based upon Jah's word. And many people in the world would put, the understandings of science and all of their, accolades as well above the Holy Scriptures. And they'll err when it comes to the faith. And I do believe that. Now I know you've heard about the theory of the Big Bang, how billions and billions of years ago there was a bang, which created time, space, and matter from nothing, and eventually evolved into galaxies, our so-called solar system, having 9 planets moving around the sun. No, that's not how the Earth and the universe was made. However, we're not going to talk about that. But I do want to let you know one thing is that the scriptures do speak of a Big Bang. Yes, they do. However, the Big Bang doesn't occur at the beginning of creation. Oh no. The Big Bang occurs at the end of creation. Now, I'm not trying to get into the understanding of a flat earth and how the earth is right now in this lesson, but I do believe that the earth does not move around the sun. The earth does not spin at all, and the sun, moon, and stars, as the scriptures teach very clearly, move around the earth and give light to the earth. We don't serve the sun. When you're dealing with a solar system theory, it's almost like you're dealing with a heliocentric theory, which is a worshiping of the sun. And heliocentric means the sun, right? And Hellel is also another name for the adversary. See, it's good to know that there is truth out there, family. There are those out there, diligent workers in Jah's vineyard, who have been laboring and have been able to go forth and bring forth great truths. And we of the Zion Assembly of Jah, we want to take part in this as well. And you can see David Ray, he's the elder of our assembly who had passed away a few years ago. But he had given us great information. He wrote a book called The Revelation of Jah's Almanac and 5 other wonderful books as well, or 4 other wonderful books, a total of 5. Abib, Seed Time, The Revelation of Jah's Almanac, Zion and Babylon, and The Moon and the Month. And within these, books, you're going to find Jah's 7,000-year cycle, along with his 7,000-year chronological table, and you'll be able to learn about Jah's 28-year cycle. That's based upon the number 7, based upon the number 12, and has nothing to do with lunar or solar observations that are in these modern times. See, for the most part, this is what I want to bring to your understanding, is that there's adversarial equinox calendar systems of Babylon. If your calendar that you use uses an equinox to say that's the beginning of spring or even of something of the new year, you can be sure that that calendar system is based upon satanic lies. When we look at the ancient Babylonian calendar, speaking of Babylon, right, we'll see these facts here. The year began on spring equinox. It was based on 12 lunar months a year, each month beginning when a new crescent moon was observed. Months consisted of 29 to 30 days, varying. To keep the year 352 days, a month was added every 3 years or so that's 13 months. Months were divided into weeks. Each week had 7 days. Each day consisted of 24 hours. Each hour consisted of 60 minutes, and each minute consisted of 60 seconds. So we know about this Middle Babylonian calendar. Remember, Babylon is basically the arch enemy of Jah. There's Zion versus Babylon, and that's how it works. And again, here's another look at the Babylonian calendar. the names of it, Nisanu, and you'll see that it's very similar to what we see today in the so-called Hebrew lunisolar calendar. And of course, we have our 13th month as well. So the equinox calendars are Baalim calendars. They are false. Even if it's the Gregorian calendar, which many people come out because they start the year in January. But you do know that they start spring on the vernal equinox. So it is a bit of confusion there as well. And many people who use the false lunisolar calendar, which is an equinox calendar as well, use the new moon nearest the spring equinox to begin their year. So although the Gregorian Baal solar calendar is understood to be false by many Israelite and Gentile believers, the trick is that the lunisolar calendar is also false and is really the ancient Babylonian calendar honoring Baal and his wife Ashtoreth. It's dealing with satanic devices. So they're both a mark of the beast that way, as you'll clearly see. And again, the equinox has to be one of the greatest calendar deceptions. And the way they set it up with the celestial sphere and having the solstices and the equinoxes being the longest and shortest days, all of those things may be true, but they are not the beginnings of seasons. They are the middle, and this is something that won't be explained today, but it'll be explained and is explained on many other video lessons from this channel. So again, the idea that the earth goes around the sun, I'm not going to get into it though, giving us these equinoxes and solar we want to call them solar time, so to speak, and summer solstice and winter solstice. All these things again are falsehood. There's 12 months in Jazir, and the spring equinox is the middle of the season. The summer solstice is the middle of the summer season. The autumn equinox in September is the middle of Jaz season of autumn, and the winter solstice in December is the middle of Jaz seasons. Again, something that is not taught in the world, but with more time and with Jah's will, we'll be able to bring this to light a little bit more. So again, we have this Metonic cycle, which is a 19-year cycle, which causes festivals to wander and move around throughout the years. So again, they have 19 years, and remember that number 19? And it's 7 times in a 19-year cycle that there's 13 months. That's right. So we have a 19-year cycle with 13 months. 2 of the rebellious numbers, 13 and 19.
Most of us use the 12-month Gregorian calendar. It's called solar calendar because it's all about lining up the dates and seasons to the Earth's position relative to the sun. Things stay in lockstep as long as we remember to add a leap day every 4 years. Now, the Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar. Each month is 29 or 30 days and it's synced to the moon. A new moon signals Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of a new month. 12 lunar months is about 10 days short of a solar year, so 7 out of 19 years Jewish people add an extra month to the calendar, called Adar 2, to compensate for the slippage. Otherwise, the festivals will get way out of whack with the seasons. So there's still some wiggle room with the Jewish holidays. Hanukkah sometimes appears to be early, coming at Thanksgiving time, or it might seem super late, after Christmas on the Gregorian calendar. That's because the lunar and solar calendars don't line up, and thanks to leap days and months and things slipping back and forth. Hope that demystified the shifting Jewish holiday seasons for you.
Now, let's think about this again here. We have this Hebrew calendar, so-called Hebrew calendar. And again, it begins at the equinox, March and April. It has 13 months, 7 times within a 19-year cycle. And sometimes it's 2 years or 3 years. It all depends because everything shifts all the time. But again, look at the names. Nisan, Iyar, this is after when they came out of Babylon. And one thing I want to let you know is that this calendar here, the so-called modern Hebrew lunisolar calendar that everybody's using, that has 13 months, it's not Jah's calendar. It's not the true scriptural calendar at all. Let me tell you a few things about the false lunisolar Hebrew calendar that are scriptural. A year with 13 months is inserted every 3rd year, 7 times within a 19-year cycle. Again, that's against the scriptural pattern. The dates of the feasts on the 7-day weekly cycle always change from year to year dramatically. That's against the scriptural pattern of set feasts. Just like how the 7-day Sabbath is set, it's not lunar, it's on the seventh day from creation and always has been. It's set, and all the other festivals are set on the same days of the week as well. See, the feasts aren't set in the appointed seasons also, because the lunar calendar can even move throughout the seasons and you can be keeping a festival outside of the true season. That's against the scriptural pattern. The beginning of the seasons and months are astronomical and not based upon scriptural standards of the seasons. Again, the equinox, the solstices are the middle of the seasons. So really, the calendar that we're using today, or many people use today, calling it the so-called Hebrew or Jewish calendar, it's really the ancient Babylonian calendar to a T. On the left, you have the Babylonian calendar in ancient times. On the right, you have the modern so-called Hebrew Jewish lunisolar calendar, and the far right, we have the Gregorian equivalents, so we can see where we are in the year. But look at similarities. Nisanu, Nisan. Ayaru, Iyar. We can go through all of these, and we notice that the Babylonian names and time frames and everything that they do, from the equinox to the new moon to the 29-30 days to the names and using the lunar cycle, are all the same thing as this modern Hebrew calendar. So I repeat, the Babylonian calendar cannot be the Most High's calendar, and if people are using the Babylonian calendar and calling it the Hebrew Jewish lunisolar calendar, well, they're in Babylon and they're confused. The Most High's calendar cannot be the Babylonian calendar. I mean, that should be, red flags all over that. 13, 19, and lunar, and it's exactly the same. Do your own research. So let me say this. All calendars that use the equinoxes and solstices as the beginning of seasons are not scriptural. Every one. Any calendar that uses 13 months, or 13 moons, or 13 Maseroths are also false. The solar system and vernal equinox are devices of the devil that has deceived the whole world when it comes to calendars. Whether it's the modern Gregorian and Julian equinox calendars, the Jewish Hebrew lunisolar equinox calendar that I just spoke of, the professed Enoch or Enochian equinox calendar that uses the equinox as the beginning of the year, the lunisolar Mazareth zodiac equinox calendar, the modern Abib barley lunisolar equinox calendar, the ancient Egyptian, Assyrian, and Babylonian equinox calendars that we spoke of, the ancient Greek and Roman equinox calendars. All these calendars are part of Babylon. They all do the same thing. They use the spring equinox as the beginning of the year. Well, I hope you got some understanding, and I hope you recognize that 12 is the number of just government, perfection of order. And we look through all of these great things, and I hope you got some understanding and you recognize these truths. It goes deep, and I want to give all praise and glory to Jah our Father and His Son Jahoshua the Messiah to die for our sins. I hope you got some understanding about the number 12 and Jah's perfect kingdom and the scriptural number 12 as well.